There's a lot of noise out there about the real estate market. Some say we're on the brink of a collapse. Others say we're already there. But from where I sit, the York region is telling a different story. One of adjustment, not disaster. Hi, I'm Pam Bouchard, your local York region and South Simcoe realtor. If you're looking for real local insight, then follow the description in the video below and you'll find everything you need. I've included a free home evaluation tool, guides for move-up buyers, buyers and sellers, and the latest market stats, all free to you to explore. If you're curious about what your home might be worth in today's real estate market, just scan the QR code or follow the link on the screen. It's fast and easy, and my team will follow up with a simple hello to see if you need anything. And if you're just browsing, no pressure. We're here when you're ready. Before we get into the April numbers, I wanted to talk to you about why I feel this information is really important right now. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you do not miss another monthly market update. A few weeks ago, a client of mine who just had their second baby had called and said, Pam, can you really give us some clarity on what's happening in the market? We're not feeling very secure, but we really do need to make that move up buy. She's not alone. So many of my clients are in the same boat. I thought it was important that I put together this market report that really addressed some of those concerns. So today we're going to cut through the noise. We're going to look at the data, and we're going to look at the visual trends and where the market is heading and where the cracks in the market will actually reveal opportunity. This is my honest read of what's happening in the York region's real estate market. Let's start with April's numbers. And you will see from the chart on the screen, in April, we saw the average sale price of a home was $1,395,000. Now that is down 8.7% from the peak that we saw in April of 2022, where home prices rose to the high point of $1,528,000. In contrast, home sales was significantly down. They were down to 894 sales for the month of April in 2025, whereas in April of 2024, we saw 1,270 sales. In April of 2023, we saw 1,445 sales. In a broader context, we saw sales in April of 2018 to be at 2,500, and in April of 2021, we saw them at 3,600. 2025, we have seen a significant decline in sales. Now, if we look at this chart, you will see that home prices have seen a modest decline from 2024. Not a crash. It's a recalibration. And alongside that, we see a rising trend in new listings and a steep drop in sales. So when I look at these numbers, my takeaway is that inventory is growing, sales are down, but prices are holding well above pre-pandemic levels. That's not a crash, that's a shift. That widening gap between inventory and sales is important. It signals a slower market, but not a distressed one. Despite the dip from peak pricing in 2022, the long-term trend reflects substantial equity gains for most homeowners. Homes are now staying on the market longer. You can see that, averaging 40 to 60 days. That clearly signals a strong buyer's market as sellers become more flexible in price and conditions. This is where buyer's opportunity begins, with time to assess, room to negotiate, and a more grounded pricing environment. Of course, this isn't the market we saw in 2021, but it's not a crash. It's a recalibration. If we start to do a comparison between the Toronto real estate market for the month of April compared to the York region is starting to experience a deeper correction. And the latest April of 2025 numbers are supportive of that. So if we start to highlight what happened in Toronto for the month of April, we can see that the homes sold were 2,129 units. That was down 17.5% year over year. The average price of home that sold in Toronto was $1,145,000. That was down 0.6 year over year. If we look at the benchmark price, it was $985,400, which was down 4.5 year over year. They've seen active listings were up by 51%, the highest since May of 1996. Days on market are 33, which is up 5 days from April of 2024. Now, in comparison, the York Region snapshot, there was a total of 894 homes sold in the York Region. In a community like Newmarket, that was down by 50% year over year. Benchmark price is $1,264,400, which is down 2.5 year over year. Active listings were at 3,750, which was up 20% year over year. Days on market were averaging 40 to 60 days. If we start to look at the key insights of this comparison, the average price gap between the York Region and Toronto remains meaningful. Despite York's sharp downturn, with York Region's benchmark price at $1.268 million versus Toronto's $985,000, we are seeing a differential of $283,000. Now, that reflects the marketplace, and that it reinforces that York's market is predominantly single-family detached homes. It doesn't have the diversity of housing stock that Toronto has. Higher days on market and rising inventory means that buyers start to take on more control of the marketplace. Instead, the market is slowly adjusting to rate sensitivity and cautious buyer sentiment. The opportunity lies not in rock bottom price, but having time and options. Two things that are rare in our past real estate cycles. Let's turn to a stat that tells us more than most people realize: time. Because in real estate, time isn't just a measure, it's a signal. In April 2025, homes in the York Region are taking 40 to 60 days to sell. That's more than double the pace from 2021. A clear indication that the frenzy has cooled. But it's not just about the number. What longer days on the market really shows is that buyers finally have room to think, compare, and to negotiate. Sellers, meanwhile, are finally responding in kind, which we didn't see in the fall market of 2024. Conditional offers are back for financing, home inspections, and for the sale of buyers' homes. Flexibility is replacing fear. That's significant. And together, these are creating balance. When I'm talking to my buyers and sellers, I'm not seeing desperation, but what we are seeing is decision-making has slowed down. That's what defines a balanced market. It's not that prices don't move. They do. The difference is they're moving through negotiation, not bidding wars. And for buyers, that's where leverage lies, not in chaos, in calm. To understand the shifting dynamics of this market, we have to explore buyer behavior. That means that we're looking at numbers to see how they're reacting right now, not just what they are paying for the real estate. Here's what we're seeing: a surge in listings, but a sharp drop in sales. Days on market have increased, which signals hesitation, caution, and a slower decision-making process. So sellers need to be patient. We're seeing more conditional offers and lower offer to list ratios, meaning you have to price it where it's going to sell. This shows that buyers are pushing back. They want control to be able to negotiate and take their time. Open house activity is moderate, but conversations are slow, meaning interest exists, but the urgency has disappeared. At the same time, forced sales are starting to creep up, especially among the investors or people who bought too high in the market is starting to tick up. This is not dominant, but it is starting to increase. Meanwhile, most end user sellers remain firm. This is evident because they are adjusting their price expectations gradually rather than slashing. So the bottom line, buyers' confidence hasn't returned yet, but informed buyers are re-entering the market selectively. They're watching policy, they're tracking days on market, they're acting, but only when the numbers align with their goals. This behavior is the hallmark of a maturing market, not frenzied focused. So even though it feels like the buyers are on the sidelines and sales are down and there's absolutely no activity, we're not in crisis. We're in recalibration. If you're financially stable and prepared and ready to act in 2025, you might find that window of opportunity, especially for move-up buyers who have equity. Let's connect and talk about your goals and how today's numbers can guide you to your next step. And if you found this helpful, please subscribe. My goal is to break down the numbers and give you tangible, usable insights every month so you can move forward with clarity and confidence. And I love to receive comments, so please feel free to comment below.